Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Desert. I'm Bryna Blum, Chair of Worship here at UUCOD. Mic's not on. Shall we begin again? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Desert. I'm Bryna Blum, Chair of Worship here at UUCOD, and it's my joy to be your worship associate this morning. Before we begin, please take a moment to silence all cell phones. As we do here every week, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded lands of the Agua Caliente Band of the Cahuilla people. And we commit to grow in our understanding and relationship with this land and with the people who inhabited it and nurtured it before our arrival. In this congregation where we strive to honor the inherent worth and dignity of every person, you are welcome here, no matter your sexual orientation or gender identity, your age, your size, or whether you're rich or poor. We welcome people of all races, religions, and cultures. We welcome you wherever you come from and whoever you love. We welcome all those who will learn and grow with us as we commit together to embrace the rich and beautiful diversity of the world. Our goal here is to build a community centered in justice, in compassion, and most importantly, in love. We're very glad you're here with us this morning, whether you're here in the sanctuary or at home. We're very grateful for your presence. Thank you all for being with us today. And now please join me as Reverend Ian brings the Tibetan bowl and we listen to the wonderful Joel Baker play our music for centering to start our service.
Come one, come all. Come with your missing pieces and your extra screws. Come with your hard edges and your soft spots. Come with your bowed heads and your upright spines. Come all you flamboyant and drab, verbose and quiet, fidgeting and lethargic. All you with large vision and tender hearts. All you with small courage and tender fears. Bring your lisp and your stutter and your song. Bring your gravel and your drawl and your lilt. Bring your anger and your joy and your righteous indignation. Misfits and conformists and everyone in between, come into this space and be welcome. Bring who you are, bring where you've traveled, bring what you long for, and let us worship together. My friends, will you rise in body or in spirit as we sing together our opening song, We Give Thanks. We'll sing it through twice.
Give thanks.
Please join with me, please, for our chalice lighting and unison aspiration. May love be the spirit of this church. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. And now if Diana Leslie will please come up to light the Bayapa candles. Please read along with me. We light these candles in solidarity with Black, Indigenous, and other people of color as they journey towards spiritual wholeness. May we, as a beloved community, work to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. May we live so that justice, dignity, and equity for all prevail. And now, we have a special announcement from far, far away.
Good morning. My name is Chris Eager, and I am the Pledge Drive Chair here. And I'm here to give you an update through this past Friday. I want to acknowledge and give thanks to all the Pledge stewards who worked particularly hard. They are, in no particular order, Jane Zahn, Linda Savard, Gary Lumdew, Roger Beeman, Earl Hoover, Julia Bell, Bill Nasco, and Joni Pat, who somehow managed to contribute even while dealing with a serious. Thank you, Joni. In addition, Ginger and helped people on the terrace fill out pledge cards, and myself. Most of us contacted at least and more friends. Let's give them all a round. I don't hear anything. Next, I would like to thank all the brave people who gave testimonials as to their reasons for thinking time, treasure, talents for the benefit of the church. They are, in order of appearance, Julia Albert, Walter Gendell, Jim Swanson, Jerry Lumdew, and Rod Belshey. Each of them delivered entertaining, heartfelt testimonials. Some of them even limited themselves to role. Let's give them all a round of applause. Okay, on to the numbers. The total amount that has been pledged as of last Friday is $184,664. We may, according to, have some additional pledges of somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. Our goal was $155,000. So at the moment, it appears we are $5,000 short. But it has been mentioned before, our membership has declined. We have lost some members due to their passing or moving away, and some have experienced financial hardship. So I would say, fight the challenges. The results are very close to it. On behalf of all the stewards, we want to thank all of you who have already given, and to those of you who have not given, please do so now. Any amount will be appreciated, and thank you to everyone.
I found this reading. I found this, as Reverend Julie used to say, on the font of all knowledge, the internet, and it really resonated with me. It's, what does accessibility really mean? It means the world opens up. It's the difference between being able to get to something or not. It's equality and inclusion. It means something different for everyone, and it impacts everyone differently. For some people, it's a huge part of their lives. For others, not so much. Some people have to consider accessibility constantly in their daily lives, while others possibly don't give it a second thought. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to accessibility. There are many aspects that have to be considered, but when it's implemented and acted upon, it makes a whole world of difference. It's independence. It means the ability to do something for yourself. It could be shopping on a website, or reading a menu, crossing a street, or getting an education. It's freedom. It's being able to go out and about independently, to have access to information in an available format, and being able to use a range of tools and technology to learn and do the same things as sighted, hearing, and physically able do. It's having a choice. We should all have a choice and be able to make our own informed decisions. The lack of accessibility shouldn't take away from doing so. Having a choice also adds to the previous points: independence and freedom, as they're often linked together. It's feeling empowered. If something or someone is accessible or approachable, one gets to feel empowered. It makes you feel more confident, giving you a sense of both achievement and belonging. Consider the use of a mobile phone or computer. Just being able to keep in touch with family and friends. Having that technology at one's fingertips is powerful. It opens up an entire world. It's having the same opportunities as everyone else. Lack of accessibility can often exclude disabled people from having the same opportunities as everyone else, whether in education, employment, traveling independently, or accessing places when out and about. Everyone deserves the same chances. It's being thought of. When something is accessible, it shows that the needs of disabled people are thought of and considered. Even the smallest things can make a huge difference. We live in a world that isn't always accessible. So when it is, you feel seen. Accessibility should be at the heart of everything we do and every plan we make so that everyone feels included. It's having equal access. When we talk about equal access, we often refer to laws and legislation such as the Equality Act of 2010. But it's so much more. Equal access is the difference between having opportunities or being denied, having freedom, being independent, accessing information and services you need, and being able to live the life you want to. Equal access means equality, inclusion, and opportunities for everyone. Equal access puts everyone on a level playing field, which is how it should be. For many, accessibility isn't just something one can pick up or leave whenever we want to. It makes a difference in one's life. So think about it for a minute. What does accessibility mean to you?
May all beings know peace. May all beings know an end to suffering. May all beings know love. Friends, will you join those beautiful voices of yours together as we sing Spirit of Life, Fuente de Amor. Friends, it is that time of the year where allergies abound. And yesterday's windstorm didn't help any of us. I want you to know that my cough is still here. It's getting better, but my cough is still here, so I am not contagious, and I'm okay. But I'm going to cough a little bit, and I apologize for that. Last month, I made my annual return to the mothership. I visited my family in my hometown of Kingston, Ontario, in eastern Canada. Now, I talk with them all the time, phone and text, but I only get to see them in person once a year these days, so the trip is always good. Most of my time is focused on my parents, but I always spend a day just hanging out with my brother and his family as they live their day, nothing special. My sister-in-law, Leah, my brother's wife, is an educator, activist, and advocator for the deaf community. She is deaf herself and is president of the Ontario Cultural Society of the Deaf. She talks a lot about issues of deaf community and a lot of the things that the deaf community are dealing with in getting access to education, government services, and other things. She often works with families, negotiating with schools about access for their deaf children, and that kind of thing. When I arrived at their home during my visit, Leah shared that she was quite upset about something she'd seen online. She was actually professionally upset, I would say. Elon Musk had just tweeted something that annoyed her. This is not about Elon Musk. That annoyed her and many in the deaf community. Musk had seen a leaked video of a meeting at Disney about LGBTQ plus characters, and it had irked him. Not the LGBTQ plus part in this instance, but the video included someone interpreting the meeting in ASL, and it had subtitles as well when he saw it. Musk tweeted this. He said, "What's the point of sign language in a video if you have subtitles? Am I missing something?" There, I'm done. Okay, good. And the emphatic response from the deaf community, yes, you definitely missed something. Leah, my sister-in-law, was interviewed for a Toronto newscast, and she said this: English and ASL, actually, she signed this, and someone else spoke it for her. English and ASL are not the same or interchangeable. ASL is its own unique language with its own grammatical structure, comprised of cultural nuance and syntax. There are accents, there are tones, there are emotions conveyed. 70% of the language is conveyed through facial expressions and bodily movement. As ASL is not English. They are very different languages. They have their own unique richnesses. She went on to make it clear that captions are important, but they do not convey the subtlety of what is being communicated. For example, you might see the word yes on the captioning. But how are you to know if that is yes, or yes, or yes? Sign can share that, but the text captions can't. She goes on and says, "We talk a lot about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we are neglecting accessibility. Access to language is what's lacking. We have a diverse population. We want to ensure people can participate, contribute, and feel a sense of belonging and not be left out. And that's where we have to understand the need to provide accessibility to enable inclusion as a community. Accessibility is necessary for inclusion." This month here at UUCOD, we are continuing to explore the values shared as part of the new statement of our common commitments as Unitarian Universalists, outlined in Article 2 of the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association. In previous months, we have explored interdependence, pluralism, justice, generosity, as well as love, which is being named as the practice from which all of these values grow. This month, we're looking at equity. The language of the current proposal says, "We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities." There are a couple of amendments that might add more nuance to this statement. And if you're interested in exploring those more deeply on any of this, take a look at our President Bob Rancourt's column in this month's newsletter emailed out on Friday. What I want to look at and think about today is the covenant part of that, the promise that this language is asking us to make, to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. To start, I want to think about that word equity itself and its meaning. Think for a moment. When I say equity to you, take note of what comes to mind. Is it the same as equality? Is it the same as fairness? There's an old meme, an online image, cartoon, that went around a few years ago. The first image is of 3 children trying to watch a baseball game. But there's a fence in the way, and it is too high for them to see over. The 3 children have quite different heights, from very short to very tall, but none of them can see over the fence. The second image shows someone coming and giving them each a box to stand on, the same size box for each child. Now the child of middle height can just see over the fence. The tall child is kind of tottering way up high, and the smallest child still can't see anything. This frame is labeled in the cartoon equality. Each is given exactly the same thing, whether it is needed or suffices. The third image shows someone else coming and giving the children boxes again. But this time, the smallest child is given a box that is higher than the others, that lets them see over the fence. The middle child is given a smaller box that also allows them to see over the fence as much as the smallest child, and the tallest child is given a very small box, just enough to get their head over the fence. This frame is labeled equity. Each is given what they need to achieve the same goal. For me, it makes a powerful point about paying attention to people's needs, where they are starting from, what will actually be helpful for them, about not assuming that one solution works for everybody. Now, there was critique of this cartoon when it came out. Basically, someone asked, who put the darn fence there in the first place? Maybe our work isn't building boxes, but deconstructing fences. And I think about Leah saying, we have to understand the need to provide accessibility to enable inclusion as a community. My colleague, the Reverend Julian Soto, shared a reflection a few years ago about attending General Assembly, the large annual gathering of Unitarian Universalists from all over the continent. Reverend Soto uses a scooter and has since they were a child, and reflected on the ways in which General Assembly and its attendees were welcoming and accessible or not. They wrote, when I try to attend events without cutouts, leaving space for my mobility scooter, I don't just feel sad, as though exclusion simply hurts my feelings. Rather, I understand that Unitarian Universalism sometimes defaults to a narrative that makes disabled people invisible and troublesome simultaneously. When we don't plan access for all in mind, who do we leave out? What story are we telling about ourselves? We want the story to be one of inherent worth and inclusion, of belonging and ease of access. And how are we choosing to live out that story? Reverend Soto continues, it's not a fantasy. I am expecting my community to save me a seat, just the same way that I save them a seat. I imagine a world in which we are all, each of us, ethically and spiritually connected and nourished. We repeatedly affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. What if how we arrange spaces can be an expression of that inherent dignity, rather than acting out that we weren't expecting disabled people to join us? I want you to hear that I'm not aiming these questions at us in an accusatory way, but an invitational way to think differently. One of the ways that our diversity, inclusion, and belonging team has been focusing over the past few months is to grow in our understanding of neurodiverse population. Thinking about neurodiversity, if that's a new word for you, is thinking about understanding brain-based disabilities and differences. Just as our bodies are diverse in their size and shape and contours, in the way they move, in the way their senses work, in the way they respond to the world, so too our brains and minds function in sometimes profoundly different ways. Our team has been engaging with materials created by the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association, which includes a series of interviews and presentations from a wide range of Unitarian Universalists, both lay members and clergy, who live with brains that work differently than what society expects as normal. People who are living with autism, people who are living with bipolar disorder or anxiety or crippling depression, people who are dealing with trauma, old or new trauma in their lives, people living with attention deficit hyperactive disorder, people living with Alzheimer's. and also the different ways in which our brains and minds function and how that changes as we age. I know I'm not alone in paying attention to the way my mind is changing as I get older. These presenters invite us into wondering what our communities might look like, how they might be more welcoming if we developed a culture of curiosity about people's needs rather than an expectation that asking for accommodations was a burden. How might we plan our worship when we take into account the needs of people for whom a crowded room is painful and overwhelming? When we make decisions about spending resources on technology, how might we think differently when we take into account the needs of those who struggle with cognitive skills? How might our pastoral care look and feel differently if we take into account the impact of trauma on so many of our lives? How might we plan our meetings and committees when we take into account the needs of people who deal with cognitive issues that affect memory and organization? How might we plan our social events when we take into account the needs of people who deal with sensory and emotional overload? It's just a few questions that we might hold in our hearts as we move forward. And it's not just about the people out there. Neurodiverse people are already here and have always been here. Some are perhaps quiet about their needs. Some have needs that are met well enough by the way we do things. Some folks, especially those who come to understand the way their brain works differently later in life, are really, really good at masking, at figuring out how to move through the world in ways that don't challenge the way that neurotypical folks do. Neurotypical means that, your brain chemistry and all that works the way our society thinks it should. And a little aside here, in many ways, as I was writing this sermon, I realized we have some experience with this work. When the COVID pandemic was arriving at its peak, as it waned, we took the time and made the effort to think together about balancing inclusion and safety, connection and health. It's a different situation, yes, but that might give us a window into how we might think of balancing needs going forward. My hope is that we might think about this kind of accessibility more over the coming months, not replacing any other of our conversations or thinking about racism or anti-Semitism or any of those issues that we continue to grapple with or try to grapple with, but adding to our pile. That we might be curious about ways we might individually and collectively pay attention to barriers that we may not see to full participation in our congregation. I'll hope you'll be part of the conversation as we continue. Friends, this is going to be one of those times when I don't share specific answers. Go and do this with you. One of those times when my plan is to invite you to think a little differently, to add some curiosity over certainty. So add some curiosity when discomfort arises for us, for you. To hold in your mind the questions raised by my sister-in-law, by Reverend Soto, and by neurodiverse folks. How can we embrace a practice of accessibility so that our community can truly be inclusive, diverse, just, and loving? That conversation about the baseball game and the boxes and the fence, it's been sitting with me all week, and it's been making me think and wondering that if we shift our wondering away from individual deficits that need to be fixed towards community accountability for accessibility. Who put up the darn fence in the first place? As we imagine, as we're doing in the coming months, what our vision is for ourselves, what our mission in the world is to be, as we ask ourselves, what is the purpose of the church? What is the purpose of this congregation in the world? What is the work of this beloved community in the world? Can we choose each day to be curious and wonder what are the barriers to others that might make this place not so welcoming? not so inclusive, not so open? Can we choose to ask how might we imagine things differently? How we might think about communication differently? How we might think of physical access differently? How we might think of the rich diversity of the way that human brains and minds and bodies work? We are not called, my friends, to be small or exclusive or limited. We are called to embrace the beauty of humanity and the world, called to make of ourselves a generous, inclusive, gloriously diverse tapestry. May that be in our hearts and our minds as we encounter the world this day and every day. May it be so. My friends, we're going to sing together now. We're going to sing an old song. It's an old song. It's a beloved song here in this community. And for many, we are a gentle, angry people, or as Holly Near calls it, singing for our lives. It's a song that was written in the face of tragedy. It was written as Holly Near was traveling to the memorial, to the vigil after the murder of Harvey Milk. And it was written with a diverse community in mind, written with saying, all of us together come together to live our lives, and we need each other. So will you join me, please, rise in body or in spirit, as we sing this old and powerful song, We Are a Gentle, Angry People.
You may not realize it, but you all sound really good. We have two announcements this morning from the Social Justice Committee. On Thursday, March 28th, join your UUCOD friends at Galilee Center and distribute Easter food boxes to those in need in the East Valley. Sign up in the lobby, on the circle table, or look in last Friday's newsletter for more details. And if you still haven't decided how to vote on if you still haven't decided how to vote on California ballot Proposition 1, this will be the final day that Sue Kaspari will be on the patio with a handout that lists the pros and cons to help you vote your values. Get some coffee and stop by the table to pick one up. And if you are watching this online and want one, please contact Denise Jansen Eager. Now, if you will join me as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Before I say some, I think, profound words as we go, I want to make a special thanks to Rod and to Chris for doing the technical work and the testing and all that stuff to make sure that Chris could be with us. That was Chris live. That was not a recording. Live from Belize earlier today. So thank you to Rod Belshi and to Chris and Linda Savard and all of our AV folks for doing the work to make sure we could do something like that. It's a new skill we have that we might use in other ways later. So thank you for letting Chris be with us today. And I'm not, but as we celebrate the end of our pledge drive, I do hope you'll join us for pizza following the service today. I don't know if you came planning to have lunch, but we've got food. We've got pizza, and I think salads too. Come and hang out with these fabulous people, have some good food, some good conversation, and celebrate our collective support for this beloved community and its thriving. So there will be pizza. I hope you'll join. Yeah, there's cheers for, we can have cheers for the pizza too, yeah. I want to finish today with these words of my colleague, who you heard from earlier, Juan Jamaica Soto. She writes this. They write this, my apologies. To the people who have mistaken freedom for liberation. To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know that you can do whatever you want. You must know not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everybody else. Being free is not a license, but a promise. With that promise in our hearts, friends, go in peace to love and serve the world.